Hello and welcome to Sunday morning, New York City. It's 32 degrees, a little chilly. I made the mistake of watching some reviews on the bikes that replaced mine, which then led me down the path of reviews of bikes that my bike replaced, and got me wondering, how bad are we being lied to? Let's take a ride and talk about it. I bought this 959 in late 2018, and then I bought a V4 in early 2020, a 2019 V4. And it's the V4 that kind of caught my attention first, because I would watch videos. I made the mistake of watching a 2024 V4 video, and they talked about how the earlier ones were so unrideable and this one's way better. So I'm like, all right. I went and looked at the 2022 2020 videos, and they talked about how the old one was so unrideable and that one was so much better and light and nimble and flickable. So then I went and looked at the original V4 videos, and they talked about how that bike was so easy to ride and light and nimble and turned in. So it's like, who's telling the truth? Was the old bike really that unrideable? Or are you just lying to make the new bike seem that much better? So, is my 2019 that outdated? I don't think so. I think the looks of the 18 and 19 are better than the 2020 and up, which is why I bought a 19. Are they just playing the part for the motorcycle companies? Probably. That's what I'm thinking. But then there's also, when I reviewed videos for the 959, and then I looked at the V2 videos, and I also looked at the 899 videos. And then it's funny because they kind of criticized the 899, but they did it in a sort of playful way. And then when the 959 came out, it was, oh my god, the 899 was so horrible. And the 959 fixed all these problems. And yes, the 959 did have improvements that I appreciate, such as the slipper clutch and the design of the clutch cover itself, which allows you to access it, and a few other things. But they're not that drastically different that once the new one comes out, it makes the old one essentially junk. And then the V2 came out, and they went on and on about the styling, and I still hold that the 959 and 1299 were some of the best looking ones. And I think that the V2, the current V2, still holds to the 2018 and 19 V4. So yeah, of the current crop, I think the V2 is the better looking bike, and I honestly like the power output. I think this is a great bike for the street. It just, enough power to have fun, not so much that you gotta worry and scare yourself. So yeah, it just makes me wonder whether they're purposely covering up any negative sides for the current bikes to try to sell them, or are they lying about how bad the bike was, or making it seem like it was bad to try to sell the replacements. I see the same thing with Harley Davidson. I'm not a fan of Harley Davidson's past the Evolution motor. The twin cams are okay, but it was the start of going in, I think, the wrong direction. And the M8s have proven to be plagued with issues, and when they get them fixed, they find new issues, like the 2024 models with their new electronic system. Now, a friend of mine bought a 2023 CVO, which had all of the problems that the people who purchased 2024s are having. And we had thought, well, all right, it was a mid-year introduction. Maybe if they do it to the 24s, they'll get them figured out. That obviously is not the case. But yet you still have people going on and on about how you should go and trade your perfectly functioning bike and get one of the new ones. Fortunately, we have a large community of actual owners, and these are the people who I trust more. I trust the owners of these to report the issues that they're having. You know, they're more honest with the bike. I think I'm more honest with my bikes, where their shortcomings are and where the new ones excel, where the old ones didn't, or where it's just the emissions update, which is kind of what the 959 was. You know, for all they made it out to be, it really was more to meet the next stage of Euro emissions and still maintain power. So, you know, that's when I start looking at reviews, and I realize it's owners that are telling more of the truth. Not all of them, because again, everyone seems to be chasing, whether it's sponsorship or some sort of special treatment by a factory, an invitation to this, an invitation to that, I don't know. But for the most part, I tend to see owners being more honest with their reviews and their experiences. And that's exactly what I think we're all looking for when we're doing some research on a bike. It's real world. It's what issues you may have had. It's your experience, your dealership experience. I mean, I'm coming up on 10,000 miles on this 959. I've had it for 5.5 years, and you know, it's been relatively trouble-free. The only thing that I've had that I would call an issue, and I had it on this one and on my V4, was the clamps for the coolant hoses either loosen up or they weren't quite tight enough from the factory. And both bikes at about 1,000 miles developed the same drips, the same coolant drips. You know, but other than that, they've been relatively trouble-free. Coming up on 10,000 miles, I'm planning on going through this bike and doing some more major maintenance, maybe a little earlier than I should, but that's just kind of my MO. You know, and there's a few screws that have fallen out, and some that are currently missing on like the chain guide. I think rear valve cover gasket has a very, very slight drip, so that'll be taken care of. And you know, I'll just go ahead and I'll go through the forks and go through anything that's greasable. I'll probably check the Desmo service, because why not? I don't mind doing things early. And other than that, she's been a really, really great bike, you know. Same with the V4, I'll do that. I don't think that just because the new bike came out that the old bikes are unrideable, or that the old bikes aren't worth it. And that's what I feel when you watch the, you know, motorcycle journalist reviews. They're pretty much making you feel like, get rid of your old bike, you can't ride it anymore. It was great, but now it's junk. You have to get the new one, because the new one is so much better. It does everything better, even though almost nothing changed. Electronics change here and there, I get it, but you know, it doesn't change the fact that the old bike was a good bike. It still is a good bike. That's kind of my gripe with watching moto journalists. You know, you turn to people in media. Well, I think we all know that we can't trust media these days, but we turn to people in media, in motorcycle media, and we try to get advice, sort of, or at least insight. You know, there are very, very few, unless you've actually owned the bike, there are very few that are proving to be truthful. I mean, I did watch one, I think it was Motorcyclist magazine, and they did a commute on the 2019 V4S, and a lot of what he said was spot on to what I feel about my bike. But that's a rarity, you know. He talked about the throttle being twitchy. He talked about the medium power mode taking too much power out, and if there was something somewhere in between, and he's 100% right, you know. And it was a pleasure to watch that in my research for what changed through the years. It was a pleasure to watch that, an honest person, because I don't feel like you're getting that most of the time. Anyway, that's kind of my gripe. You know, this bike, I picked this up new in late 2018. This was my first foray back into motorcycles. My previous bike, 17 years earlier, was a 2001 ZX6R. And it's amazing how much technology changed between then and now. But you know, I'm not one that sells bikes generally. I don't. It would have to be such a drastic change or improvement in the bike to make me want to upgrade. But then again, if it's such a drastic change and improvement in the bike, then meaning it's such a different bike, I might want to keep the original. You know, that's the level of change it needs to be for me. And I don't feel that that's happened with Ducati in the last 6 or 7 years or so. I think they're just repackaging and restyling the same machine with some minor tweaks. Now, what I will say is that makes me look forward to when Ducati actually does a major change, because that makes me think that it'll actually be worth doing. It's the same with Aprilia. I have the Tuono 660 that Shante rides and I ride sometimes, and then you know we have the Tuono V4. And I'll tell you, the Tuono V4 is an unbelievable motorcycle. Unbelievable to the point where it kind of makes me want an RS V4. But the differences between the current Tuono V4 and RS V4 are not great enough. Oh, look at the doggy. Oh, scared. They're not drastic enough for me to want to buy it. So I'm hoping that we're going to come up on an RS V4 refresh that adds enough differences stylistically and mechanically to make me want it. Because that'll probably be the next bike I get. You know, and I'm not going to go on motorcycle reviews about it. I'm going to go based on any owner reviews and also my actual experience with Aprilia, which has been phenomenal. It's a crazy thing to say. I tell people all the time, if I would have bought the Tuono V4 before I bought the Ducatis, I probably wouldn't have bought the Ducatis. But hindsight is always 20/20. So looking forward to see what Aprilia and Ducati do in the future. Looking forward to seeing when they make bigger, more drastic changes, and then we go from there. But anyway, that's it. I don't know what other people think. I don't know how much faith they've lost in the automotive journalists and the motorcycle journalists. I know I tend to just watch them now for specifications. I don't care as much about their opinions because I feel their opinions are all biased. And I honestly feel even more so about the way some people are biased towards EVs. You know, recent review I saw on the new Livewire, and it's like, seriously? You're going to try to sell me on a $15,500 motorcycle that gets 50 to 70 miles of range and doesn't have great suspension, doesn't have great brakes, doesn't have any sort of exceptional performance, you know. And I compare that, when I was watching that video, you can see that there is a bend towards wanting EVs, which is fine, you know, just kind of admit it instead of toying around the idea. But for $15,500, I'm sitting there thinking, the Tuono 660 we got, that was $10,000, and you know, we can travel anywhere we want, 100 horsepower, 100 miles to a tank, refuel in 3 minutes, beautiful noise, feeling, good brakes, reasonably good suspension, much better looks, and doesn't have this big finned silly battery, you know. And again, you're talking about, it's 2/3 the price, you know, 10,000 versus 15,500. For that price, I could almost pay for our Tuono and our Rebel 500. Another phenomenal bike if you want that style of bike. Why does it have to be electric? Why are you pushing electric? Why are you trying to hide all of the downsides to electric? That little Rebel 500, we got it last February, I want to say, and it has over 11,000 miles so far. We've taken it from New York City to Daytona Beach for Biketoberfest last year and back. We rode it there and back, that with the Tuono V4. And it's been a great bike. It's been a great bike. You could buy the Tuono and that, or two Rebels easily, you know. And for what? You want to push electric bikes? Why? For the inconvenience? Nah, I don't get it. I don't get it. And that's another bent that I'm seeing from automotive journalists and bike journalists, pushing their feeling, their agenda. I feel like maybe they've been out in California too long. Maybe they need to go and spend some time in the real world. But that's it. That's all I got. I'm just going to continue to enjoy this nice 36-degree day, my bike says. Weather forecast says 32. I'll take it either way. It's better than rain, it's better than snow, and heated gear, no problem. Anyway, enjoy your day. Catch you all next time.